Hello and welcome to another episode of our in-depth constructed series. Today I want to finally finish the rlor tournament that has been on my to-do list for like a week now. I just couldn't really bring myself to edit all of these videos, but I'm going to do it now, and I want to play the rlor tourney tomorrow. There's like on the region decks, so I want to finish the old one finally, so I'm uploading the last 3 matches here for you to follow. This first one was versus TKG Randomizer 45, one of the other TKG members, and they brought 3 quite interesting decks. And the first one is a Kalista Viego deck. Viego, one of the champions I expected to be brought. What's interesting about this list is that it only runs 2 Vengeances, basically full on deny protection, so there are no deny going on. Nobody or nothing is countered with deny, and basically breaking out those decks. We also see Cameroon Soldiers, Sky of Sorrows, Vanguard Sergeants, all the good 3-drops, some value 4-drops, Connective Ruin, Spirit Leech, and the Birdie guy, Swiftling Flight. Then a one of Ethereal Mitter, very interesting, 3 Soul Gorger with aggressive decks, a Hydra Vine, very classic, and Rekindler for Viego. And then at the top end, one card I missed during the games is Tiana Crown Guard and triple Cythria. So basically all in unions and no spells to maybe counteract a deny. Very cool plan, very interesting. Second deck was a Draven Riven Tri-Beam deck. Also super cool idea. That was one of the decks I definitely didn't have on my radar. And very cool. I would have liked to face it, but I thought it would have a very unfavorable matchup for us. Basically, Tri-Beam is this spell where if you play a 3-cost card, he gets upgraded and does more damage. Though this deck is just packed with 3-cost cards, Draven Riven as champions, and then all in aggression with probably only 3-cost cards except for 1 Rune Reckoner and 2 K to the arm, 1 card draw card, 3 decimates. Very, very cool deck. And I'm honestly sad that I had to ban this one. And the last one was a Trundle Malphite list. Quite interesting. Not sure what the real, of course it's just a ramp deck, but not sure why you would play Malphite over, let's say, Aurelion Soul, for example. Maybe it's just like a joke. Or because you expect multiple mid-range decks to also show up and want to counter those. The decklist itself has Trundle Malphite, triple Eyebrow Hurak, the only way to level up Malphite. Then the Spring Guardian, also interesting, just as a healing probably. Wording Stones as ramp. Blinded Mystic, decent card. Erosion Heartguard, It's Stairs, and top end. Wrath of the Failure, Geo Wonders. Some ramp cards, Catalyst, Voices of the Old Ones, Momanda's Call. Basically just a go big deck. So, for our own lineup, I decided that we should be pretty well set up to beat the ramp decks and to beat the unit or the spell-less deck, because it just do so much broken stuff that any normal deck should not be able to deal with it pretty easily. So I decided to ban the Draven Riven deck, while my opponent decided to ban my Karma TF, which I was quite happy about because Karma TF was kind of my worst deck from my experiences at this point, and this means we just had some good decks. For the first matchup, we queued up with our attached deck, the Yuumi Pantheon Taric list, and they had a Viego Kalista deck. They had no way to interact with our attached units, so I knew if I get the combo online, if I get my 10-10 lifesteal elusive, whatever, I have no way to win against this, and this was my game plan. Here's my mulligan. What would you keep? What would you get rid of? So actually this wasn't that easy for me, because in the last one I said I wouldn't keep Minimorph. However, I kind of lost to the Viego and noticed how important Minimorph can be versus this matchup and decided to keep it this time. Not sure what is correct here, but of course you keep the 3-drop and your Destiny's Call. We don't have any fairs yet, so no point in keeping our Gleaming Lantern in the opening hand. Round 3 comes around, and my opponent just starts with a Cameroon Soldier. Typical 3-drop, you want to run it out early and just get your Viego buffs, and I just play my unit. No point in blocking here, because no point in not blocking and no point in blocking. So just kind of did not block because they have no way to deck with our Stellar Corn with the Spell Shield. They have like a Challenger guy or two, but we will be able to outpace this. And decided to just take it. We have lifesteal anyways, we will just heal back up. Okay, our turn comes around and we kind of just have one play with the Loop Travelers. Not much to explain here. Just playing on curve, discarding a Cytheria. That probably won't be relevant in the whole game. So this is just me using my mana, not wasting anything. We didn't find any attached units yet, which had me kind of scared. And out comes a Swiftwing Flight, another unit that can just take down our lifesteal guy. And it didn't look that great. Of course, Swiftwing Flight can be used for the spell here, which I kind of forgot. Here comes Viego, number 1. And I found a Sparklefly, which I promptly just suited up with my +8/+8 Destiny's Call. And I knew if I get this down, I won't be able to interact with this. And here comes the Blinding Assault that was generated by the Swiftwing Flight. Very good use for spell mana if you don't have any spells in your deck. It's definitely a very cool deck and interesting build. And we kind of take a bunch of damage here. It's ordered around so that the unit survives. And the good news is we still have our infinite lifesteal guy. So despite us losing this one, or these 2 units, doesn't really matter as long as the Viego doesn't flip and we can have a Minimorph in our hand to prevent that. So it's just like a 9/10 lifesteal. And once again, we know they have nothing. We know they can only have a Vengeance. I could think about it here if I can afford to play around Vengeance. Set to play around a little bit with the Gleaming Lantern, or at least I want to like bait it, for example. But I only have 2 copies of Vengeance as well. So it's something to keep in mind here. They only have the 2 copies. And I'm really scared if they like have the Vengeance here, we could wait 1 turn, then we could protect our unit with the Spell Shield, and I'm just hoping here so much that they just play out some random guy, don't hold up the Vengeance here, and they indeed do play out a random guy, which allows me to run out my 9/10 Sparklefly and go to town. Viego is not close to flipping yet, and Skyrosaurus brings back here either the bird or the other guy. I know what it brings back, but there was 2 possible options here. And we heal back up, 9 life. And now I think it's basically possible to lose unless Viego levels up, which we can easily prevent with our Minimorph. They also have a challenge unit, so they can challenge my lifesteal guy to the right, which they promptly do. And this forces us to be a little bit careful of our life total. And we easily survive that, so I'm just going to... I think I should just Minimorph here. I hope I do, because if I just block the Viego flips, I think I noticed that, but let's see. A little bit of considering here what we do, but of course the right play is to just immediately get rid of the Viego, and now they have no real way of killing our unit either. I guess I can kill it now again with the Vengeance, but I guess I got lucky and I didn't have it. So this is a little bit of a spot where you had to get lucky, but there's also just a 2-off in the deck. And if they had the Vengeance right there, right now, we would have probably lost. However, they don't have it. And now it's time for us to find a lethal. We have 9 damage on the board, but we can attach a unit still, because we don't have any unit attached yet. And this is just so much damage. Even if they have the Vengeance now, we have our Spell Shield open. And this just takes down the first guy, exactly what we planned. We just have the uninteractable elusive unit here. For the second matchup, we then face the same deck again with our Banditry list. And again, they don't have any answers for Banditry, so we just have to not die to win the game eventually with 3. It's going to be harder to keep pace with Viego with this list, but let's see how we do. For Mulligan, this is my opening hand. What would you keep? What would you mulligan? Should be pretty obvious that Rite of Negation is terrible, and I literally only have 2 targets for it. And Poppy I decided to not keep, because I rather would have some more proactive 4-drops, and maybe some removal spells, even Minimorph, for example, for Viego. And Poppy is just a little bit better in the later game, when you have a bunch of units on the board already, but in the early game I would rather find some other stuff, and I'm going to keep my 3-drop, because you always want to have a 3-drop in this form, otherwise you just waste 3 mana. Once again, we will just start with turn 3. When a Sergeant gets played, and I play out my Viego Vagabond. And of course we don't trade, just would be a jump block. And we immediately have the chance to blow up our own thingy here. If there's a naturalist, immediately get like a board advantage going on, which I thought would just be quite nice. And we have a decent board position here, very strong early game curve. However, they just answer with the Cameron Soldier. Cameron Soldier very strong on defense as well because of the ephemeral unit just completely halting the attack, and we would just like lose 1 health basically on a unit for nothing if we would go for an attack here. And on this turn, I thought about developing 3 immediately, but it's kind of weak if you just played out very early on. We just had 1 region at this point, and out comes Viego. We could just go for Minimorph here immediately, which I do, and just get this out of here. This is the main win condition. If we don't have to deal with Viego, we will have an easier time, was my argumentation here. And then I decided to just go with Pogo Sled. Pogo Sled very good in this deck, once again, because you can generate Pogos that actually progress your battle tree, level up, and another Vanguard Sergeant. And here we have to attack. And both of these units have good attacks. We get Targon here from our Pogo Sled. So 1 more down. We are a total of 4 now. Shurima, Targon, Banner City, and Freljord. I sadly don't see my battle tree list over there in top right. Usually you can see it. Fortunately not this time. And some trades happening. And another Skybosaurus. Now there are more units dying. I guess Viego doesn't die, so you can't get Viego. Because with the Minimorph, Viego didn't die. And I didn't mention it yet. If you're wondering what this is in top right, it's just my hand tracking system. You can see now the scroll for the Skybosaurus, 2 face-up cards for the 240 Marcia, and then some face-down cards, which symbolize the other cards they have. And out comes a Swiftwing Flight. I decided to just go for, think about plus going for Banner Tree, but it's still a little bit scary. I just think I have to go for it here. We're only at 4, but we kind of have all of our Shurima cards in our hand, and I just decided to counter the Rite of Negation with thinking about killing a unit, but just decided to go for Mana Scam. Maybe it's better to just kill a unit, but we just have to survive another for the Marcy as well. And I decide to just, we can't play Taliyah here because I don't have board space for Battle Tree, and instead I want to progress it. We're fortunate to draw like all of our Shurima cards here, Taliyah and the other guy, and just decide to get rid of them. And we don't need the Space Shield here, obviously, because they only have the Vengeances, so Space Shield would be literally useless. But we get Noxus down, and yeah, 5 out of 10. Still looking at a good attack, however, they have the 1 of Vengeance, so maybe we should have gone with Space Shield, but I think this is just very unlikely for them to have exactly this 1 copy. And our Pogo hits Noxus again, which is very unfortunate. Would have been very good if you would have hit 1 of the other 5 regions we're still missing. But yeah, it's kind of like, it was a 50-50 at this point. And down to 8, like Life Turtle is also good, but they should have a decent board lead after this turn, because they just have so many sets on the board. And we generate 2 more things. The Bilgewater and PNC, we go up to 7 here. Bilgewater, very unfortunate generation, because we already have our Shark Trainer in hand. The 3-drop guy can also give us our Ionia if we need it. And yeah, a little bit of a break. Randomizer mapping out the turn, how they're going to proceed from here. My plan is just to survive, as usual, and out comes the Swiftwing Flight. This was generated by the Swiftwing Vanguard, or the 1 bird generated the other one. And here comes the big 40 Marcia attack, which just means we kind of have to survive. And I'm just passing here, which means I should probably have played up my unit and blocked, but I wanted to keep 1 of my units back around for the future turns, and we try to just lose on all of our units. Probably it was a mistake. I kind of thought I would just win, hopefully next turn. That was my out, by having the beast below and the other guys. But unfortunately, I forgot 1 card. I talked about it in the intro, I was like, oh nice, I can actually do stuff. I have the Descent Ada now and can hopefully work it out from here. Just immediately slammed it. However, they crushed my dreams immediately with a... wait for it. Maybe it takes a moment, but here it comes. Tiana Crown Guard coming in with the rally. I'm still going for my deal 2 to anything, but it just won't be enough to keep me alive. They'd have 2 more attackers than us, so it's pretty obvious. Even if we block, we still take 6 damage, so it's just GG. I decided to tap it out, or almost tap it out. But very unfortunate, a little bit close. If we didn't draw all of our Shurima cards, we might have had a better chance, but this was just tying it up for 1-1 on this very exciting match. As for last matchup, we faced this fancy ramp deck which didn't have any answers for tree. So once again, our game plan is just stall out and get tree going and win from this point. Like Itzat's desk exists, but it should be too slow. And let's take a look at our opening hand. Here, this is the opening hand. And I personally decided to just keep it all. We have a 3-drop, we have a Rumble with a card that we can discard to Rumble. We have a Battle Tree, a Minimorph in case of a early Malphite, for example. And we headed into the game. One last time, we're starting on turn 3 here, round 3 it is. And I just play out my Songbird guy 2-4, whereas Randomizer plays the Spring Guardian. Very decent start from both of us. I don't want to necessarily trade off health here, because we will just going to be wider and they will have to jump block us eventually. I'm just going to get my hand tracking up here again on the top right, you can see it. My fancy drawings of Trundle and Trundle. And the second Spring Guardian, which allows us to just go all in on Rumble. We don't need our Landmark Destruction, we don't need Taliyah, we don't need Hungry Owlcat. And I'm considering just not discarding Hungry Owlcat because they don't have any meaningful spells to hurt us. And we will probably be able to hit with Rumble twice before needing the Space Shield, which means he gets the Space Shield from his level up form anyways. And we go, now you can see it, my landmark counter over here. We are now at 3 out of 10. And I work on my hand tracking here, just getting these face-up cards down, while opponent is thinking. Blinded Mystic silences our Poro guy, so no free 1-cost Poros for us, which is kinda unfortunate. But we still get a Rumble attack in. Of course, the Blinded Mystic can't silence champions, so we just get a big hit in and are now halfway done with our Rumble level up and on a decent spot. The opponent doesn't really play any good AoE destruction. Here comes the Eye of Rahurak, but we can easily outswarm that with our Bandit City Mayor, generating another card, and then we can generate more cards. So just go for Youth Travelers for the finishing of the Battle Tree, because we don't have PNC yet. And then you can also run them out and get rid of a card from their hand, or Rite of Negation, which is very powerful. And RIP, Omala's Call wouldn't have been relevant in this game anyways. And Double Stun hits our 2 small units, which leads to us just being able to attack again. You could also develop first, which is an interesting decision. And they most likely can just play 1 unit out. However, as open deck looks juicy, I decided to just play out my units first here, because of the reason they just can play out 1 unit. They are not at turn 8 yet, but they could play like Itzat Stairs. They're 1 mana away from that. Didn't ramp at all. In comes the 3rd Spring Guardian, and I don't really know. Like this card just feels really weak here against this matchup. And we get blocked. Pretty obvious blocks, but Rumble just transforms. And we kinda level up here and generate more cards in our hand. Thus we still have our whole turn to go. We can still go for like a Bandle Tree, for example, our Shurima and the other guy. And that's why I wanted to trade out my board first. Rumble flips, of course, which means we have a very hard threat to deal with. Just the Space Shield as well means he's very impervious to any direct damage sources or stuff like that. And they pass. I decide to just play out my Shadow Isles guy here first, if I remember correctly, yes. And then we can play out our Shurima otherwise. And now, unfortunately, my thingy moved on the left side again. But we are now very close to completing the battle tree. And can play out our Vagabond here. And even if they have Malphite here, they can't ever kill us. They just are too wide and too strong. So let's see what happens. By Mystic, silencing our Mayor. Don't know if that was the right choice here. We can't really need to play more cards out. We have a very huge board here. But yeah, we have a very good protection as well with our Minimorph and Rite of Negation. That's just very good. Wrath of Freljord comes in, makes all of our units unable to block, but we can just Minimorph it immediately and deal with it this way. So now we can easily block and there's just no threat going on. Battle tree comes down at 7 out of 10. And we kind of got unlucky with the Shurima guy in our hand. We just have such a dominant board position that we might not even need the Bandit tree win condition here. Instead, I think I just go for the open attack to just clean up my board and be able to develop more units later on. Decided to keep 2 units back. And in retrospect, I probably wouldn't have done that. Even if we lose the units for free, we'll just override them anyways. So it doesn't really matter. Main point is that we have a big Rumble hit coming in and probably just win off of Bandle Tree here in the end. And massive Dunebreaker mech coming in our hand. Not a Wrath of Freljord, but now a Rumble can still block. And I think I just work on the Bandle Tree completion. First looking here for a Bilgewater card we didn't have yet. Bilgewater Demacia, so that's very good for us. And now we are at 8 out of 10. Then the Demacia guy puts us at 9 out of 10. And there's just no real interaction for that. Even if they have the Landmark Destruction guy, we would be able to work from that. And I just lay another blocker down. But we can just run out of whatever unit we have here. Next turn we even get a 1-cost one, which is very fortunate. And a second Battle Tree, which is also super lucky. So even if they have like Gifted Stairs, doesn't matter. We just have voices of the old ones, so no answer for our tree whatsoever. But we had it all in this game, and this game, they just ramp and do nothing otherwise. And this game just immediately catapults us to the finals and the quarterfinals. First of all, the top 4 basically goes to quarterfinals. We were now at 3-1, so we were like second place in the whole tournament. And yeah, check out the next 2 videos for the quarterfinal, or the half finals, I guess it's called, semifinals and the finals. Thanks for watching and see you around.